Welcome back, everyone, to another reaction video. Well, for the second day in a row, we're going to take a look at a new channel, one I've never done a reaction to before, and this comes directly from a user request that I checked this one out. The channel is MrSpherical. He's got 1.7 million subscribers, so I'm not really sure why I haven't seen this in my recommendeds already. Looks like he uses country balls to tell historical tales. So we're going to take a look today at Who Started World War I, Part 1. So I like to do, we might actually do both parts if there is a second part that's already available. When I look at a new channel, I tend to like to look at a video that's on a topic that I know something about. That way I can kind of fact check a little bit and make sure that they kind of know what they're talking about before just kind of diving in and trusting everything that's being said. So that's why we'll go to World War I. It's a topic that I feel pretty confident in. Speaking of which, if you haven't already, please check out my channel, Stories of the Great War. Just about done with the latest video that's going to be going up live later on this week on that channel. So be checking that out. Subscribe to that channel if you would, please. All of my original content related to the First World War goes on that channel. I want to thank Darren from Orting, Washington. Thank you so much, Darren, for your support on Patreon. Couldn't do it without you. Link is in the description if you want to check out this channel if you're new and have never been introduced to it before. Let's dive in. So I did look, and Part 2 is available, so we're going to do the whole thing in one go here, Part 1 and Part 2. Here we go.
Let's hold this position.
I like the animation.
Damn it, meat pie! All this senseless killing! For freaking what?
Believe it or not, breadstick old chum, the war started because some dude got killed.
Wait, what? One dude led to millions of deaths?
Yup, maybe I'm oversimplifying it a bit, though.
Let's talk! More
Oversimplifying, huh?
flashback!
Okay. So literally every single ruler wanted to hold on to their empire so badly, they viewed everyone else's expansion with deep paranoia.
So it's important to note when he uses the word empire, we use, there are certain terms that we use colloquially rather than with a specific kind of definite definition. In other words, Germany has an empire. They have an emperor, Kaiser Wilhelm II. France doesn't have an emperor, but they're still an empire because they've gathered up for themselves these territories, these overseas territories in places like Africa, which they rule as a part of their empire. An empire is really just any collection of sovereign states that are under one government. So mostly it's an emperor, like in Austria-Hungary or in Russia or in Germany or in the Ottoman Empire. But in other cases like Italy, Belgium, or France, they don't technically have an emperor. I mean, the UK kind of does. The king is also emperor of India, but it's complicated, but we use that term loosely.
Britain, Russia, and France were sort of BFFs. And on the other side, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy were also BFFs. Heard the phone! Italy? But those guys are on our side now.
They changed sides later.
Yes, they did change sides. So before the war, there was the Triple Alliance, which was Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. But Italy, when the war begins, they're kind of sitting out and they're waiting, and they're looking for some specific territorial concessions, particularly some territory here that they would like to get from the Austro-Hungarians. And when Austria-Hungary won't give it to them, they join on the Allied side. By Allies, I mean the Triple Entente, which we call later in the war the Allies: Britain, France, Russia.
But don't get ahead of yourself.
Pardon.
Okay, so these guys have some informal alliance. But these guys have a defensive alliance, which means they'll all get into a fight if some...
And can we just point out the fact that most of the major side of the Allies, all red, white, and blue flags, Serbia, France, the British, the Russians, the Americans.
But he messes with one of them. Guys, what the hell are you doing? We're in the middle of a battle. We're doing the war's origin story. Oh.
The war's origin story.
Voilà, monsieur. So everyone is paranoid and power-hungry and have alliances and stuff. But you said this all started because one guy got killed.
Yeah, so and we've talked about this before, but if you're new to the channel, anytime there's a cause that we point to for an event, there are always dozens of other factors that led to getting to the place where that cause could be the event. So we always talk about the stock market crash in 1929 leading to the Great Depression. Well, the stock market crash could only lead to the Great Depression because of a bunch of factors that led up to the stock market crash. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand is the match that lights the flame of war. But there were all kinds of other factors that made it possible for that assassination to start the war.
Meet Archduke Franz Ferdinand.
Where?
Shh! He's starting a flashback.
Oh.
Franz Ferdinand was Archduke
Schönbrunn Palace.
Austria.
It's beautiful. I've
Pretty
been there.
chill dude.
That was a really good animation
Franz
of it.
Ferdinand.
It looks just like that. It's a gorgeous place to visit if you ever get the chance. Huge gardens.
And was Archduke of Austria. Pretty chill dude. Listen, Uncle Joe. I mean, Emperor Joseph. There's some Serbian nationalism going on down in one of our provinces. So
I love they got Franz Joseph's facial hair there. So Franz Joseph by this point has no heir, a direct heir in terms of a son. His son was in a situation where the woman he loved was not somebody he could marry, and so there was a murder-suicide that happens where, or kind of like a suicide pact that he has with her, and they both end up dead. He takes his own life. And then Franz Joseph's wife is assassinated. She's stabbed to death. And so his next in line to the throne now is his nephew, who's in a morganatic marriage, which means that he and his wife Sophie, while they have children, those children can't inherit the throne. So had Franz Ferdinand become emperor, which he would have in 1916 when Franz Joseph died, his children would not have come to the throne after him.
I'm gonna go flex our military a bit. Have fun. Oh, and keep an eye out. There's a Serbian ultranational secret organization called the Black Hand, who may try to kill you.
Okay.
Bah, I'm sure to be fine.
The Black Hand got to Franz Ferdinand and his wife.
So Franz Ferdinand was actually looking forward to this trip because of the status of his marriage, where Sophie was kind of considered beneath him. She couldn't really be seen as his equal in Austria-Hungary, but when they went on this trip, she could be his equal. And so that was something they were really looking forward to, and unfortunately both of them are killed. She's killed by one of the shots, even though she wasn't really a target.
They were both murdered by gunshot. And that's when the war really started.
They killed his wife too? Merde.
Yes,
Merde.
it's barbaric. You got a wife, Breadstick?
Oui, and 2 daughters. The smallest one I haven't met yet, because of the war. But that's why I'll do everything in my power to survive.
Or you son of a bitch! Take this and this! Oh man, this looks bad.
All right, tiny nitpick here. That German, I think they said at the beginning this was 1916. The Germans wearing a Pickelhaube, they weren't wearing those anymore in 1916. They had the Stahlhelms, the ones that we know from World War II.
I blame my character development.
We have to find a medic!
Forget it.
I blame my character development.
I'm gonna go look for help.
I like the mix of telling the story, but also some humorous moments, breaking the fourth wall a little bit by acknowledging that they're characters on a show.
You take care of him.
Finish it. Finish the story. I need to know what I'm bleeding to death for.
You sure? It gets rather silly from here on out. Like, if I were you, I'd much rather die not knowing all this crazy
Finish the story.
Okay, so at first, people didn't really seem to care that Franz Ferdinand was killed. Like, sure, it sucked, but at least there wasn't chaos or any...
It's a great point, because it's a month after the assassination before you're going to get to a state of war. There's this time called the July Crisis, and this is the really tragic and unfortunate part of all of this, is that the good diplomacy should have been able to solve this. And it's this series of almost comedic level errors and unfortunate decisions and kind of almost fate that's happening here. And if you want to know more about this, I'll put a link up at the end to the reaction we did a couple years ago to the whole series from Extra History on the July crisis.
Anything but then. Serbia!
Yo!
What the heck, man? You killed my nephew! Oh, crap. I guess some people in my government were plotting against you. Look, I know you're angry. I'm going to have to investigate this. Okay. Inside your country! With my own forces! Okay, but, you know, how about no? Then I'll get my expansion. I mean my revenge! And
my expansion. So they give them a list of 10 demands, and Serbia agrees to like 9.5 of these demands. And the only reason Austria-Hungary is able to get away with this is because they basically get a blank check from their allies, the Germans, to go this far with this and threaten war if necessary. And so the thing he mentions there that Serbia says no to is the only part of all of these demands that Serbia rejects, which is allowing Austria-Hungary to come into Serbia to kind of run roughshod over their legal system and take over the whole investigation, the whole trial, all of it to these people that they believe are a part of it. Serbia's denying that because they're trying to respect their own borders and ask Austria to do the same, and they won't. But all while this is happening, Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany goes on vacation. And so by the time he comes back and he sees that Serbia has agreed to almost all of these demands, he says, well, this really removes any argument for going to war over this. But by this point, it's too late. And once the ball gets rolling, there's no stopping it.
that was not the end of it. Germany! What are you doing here? Just out for a stroll. Germany! Serbia killed my nephew! It's a bit more complicated than... Do not worry, your little schnitzel brain.
I have to say, schnitzel, fantastic. I had it in both Germany and in Austria. So good.
Back you up if anyone, like Serbia, tries to mess with you. Oh, thanks, bestie. Okay, Serbia. Get your ass ready for invasion!
Russia.
Russia? What are you doing here? Just out for
I love how he's introducing these layers to this, because this is really how it went down.
Bro, Russia, these assholes want to invade me. But only because he killed, your nephew. My nephew! Oh, guys, can we not? I really like Serbia. So if you attack him, I'll have to mobilize my army to look fancy and project power at you. But if you attack Austria-Hungary, then I'll have to attack you.
And notice Russia says I'll have to mobilize my army. On paper, mobilization is different than going to war. But in reality, in 1914, it's the same thing. The whole point of what leads to all of this is this idea of the cult of the offensive, which is something that pretty much all of the armies of Europe subscribe to, which is the idea that you win by going on the offensive. And even if you are attacked first, you're going to win by counterattacking. It's always better to attack rather than defend. And that's going to kind of define the early part of this war. And so the idea then is that because all of these armies are mostly reserves, I mean, they have standing armies, but the main bulk, the main power of your army is what you can mobilize from reserves. The faster you can mobilize and go on the attack before the other guy can, the better off you'll be. And Germany's whole strategy depends on Russia being slow to mobilize. They're going to beat France before Russia can even do that. So then they can turn around, bring all of their armies that they used to defeat France over to the Eastern Front and defeat Russia. So when Russia starts to mobilize, in Germany's mind, it's the same thing as going to war. And so then they have to mobilize. And now it's kind of like the Cold War with all your nuclear weapons. Both sides are building more and more so that they have the strength, but nobody wants to back down.
Which means... Wait, I didn't say attack. France? What are you doing here? We just out for a stroll. France! Germany is going to attack me because they think I'm going to attack him. Because they're going to invade him because his nephew, the Archduke, got murdered.
Pretty much it.
Oh,
What a mess.
Yeah, you have
Totally.
no idea. Whoa! What the hell?
Hey, relax. I came back to finish the job. But then I started hearing your story. And, yeah.
Are they digging?
the score is done.
Is that what that sound is? It sounds like the sound of them digging.
I'm sorry I shot you.
I guess just the gunfire. I'm sorry I shot you.
We are at war. Does these things happen? Can I hear the rest of the story? Sure. What the hell? Take a seat.
Okay, where were we? Oh, right. Something. You invade him, I invade you, yada, yada, yada. What? Hey, guys.
Belgium.
What's going on?
Oh, jeez. Accurate. So, Germany has this plan. It's called the Schlieffen Plan, though. How much they really stuck to that plan by the time of 1914, there's an argument to be made there that they used elements of it, but not strictly stuck to it. But basically, the idea of being able to take out France quickly enough to be able to go deal with Russia means they have to go around France's defenses, which means going through Belgium. They give Belgium an ultimatum saying, listen, we don't want to attack you. We just want to send our armies through. Belgium's King Albert, hardcore dude, says, no, you can't violate our sovereignty. We're going to war. And so even though they know they can't stop Germany, they slow them down enough to buy time for France. And because Germany attacks Belgium, that makes the UK treaty obligated to enter. They wouldn't have been obligated to enter if Germany had just attacked France directly.
Oh,
There goes Schönbrunn
did you
Palace.
just preemptive strike me through Belgium? Well, I couldn't wait for you to attack me. It was a logical move.
True that.
Wait, but if you attacked Belgium...
Here comes the UK.
Britain, what are you doing here?
Yes, the joke's getting old. But little birdie told me you guys attacked my boy Belgium. Well, turns out...
Let me guess, you have an alliance with them.
Yep. And I've decided to remain a neutral from now. So
And people always talk about it being like a cousins' war, and to a degree that's true. But honestly, in the cases of countries like Belgium and the UK, or not Belgium, Germany and the UK, this is really more the civilian government that's kind of pushing this, even more than the royalty in those countries. But Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany is the eldest grandchild of Queen Victoria from the UK. George V is his first cousin. So Kaiser Wilhelm's mother and George V's father are brother and sister. Then another one of their cousins is the Tsarina, the wife of Nicholas II in Russia. She's also a grandchild of Queen Victoria. Nicholas II and George V are cousins through their mothers, who are sisters to each other. So there's all kinds of those things going on, and many of the other countries have similar relationships.
yeah, that's more or less how the war started.
I think he passed away while you were talking. I don't know how much he heard.
Oh, well, maybe it's for the best. It's not a happy story, honestly. How was it in your country? You know, when the war started.
Everyone cheered. We all thought we were doing our great patriotic duty to defend our allies.
Yep.
That the war would be quick, because we had right and might on our side.
Isn't that interesting how often some of the deadliest wars in history, people think they're just going to be over real quick? I think that's maybe just optimism, and it's the human ability to deny that they're about to make a decision that's going to lead to the deaths of millions of people.
Same in London. Whole country cheered us on as we rode off to play toy soldiers. To kill ourselves because of a bunch of power-hungry rulers who manipulate us ordinary people into fighting for them.
Hopefully future generations don't let their countries be the only one telling them the history.
So they're not manipulated into making the same mistakes we made.
Cheers to that.
In total, during the war, between 15 and 22 million people, soldiers and civilians, died across all the involved countries. Absolutely true. That was the loss of life was greater than any previous war. That is debatable it's possible that that's true. And certainly it's the most well-documented case. There are some civil wars that happened in China that very likely led to more deaths than that, or at least as many. But those are a little less well-documented. That was really good. I liked his presentation a lot. I think it was the right tone, using some humor, but also recognizing the seriousness of what happened. Really wasn't that funny. Good. So let's go ahead and dive right into part 2.
Ah, phew! That was... Die, infidels! No! My best friend and brother-in-law for 10 years, Lieutenant Boomerang! No!
Great! Now we're both dying. Least I could do after you killed my best friend slash brother-in-law in arms. This is war! What, you think we're the bad guys here? You literally are. Let me explain. When the war...
A little homage to Wayne's World there. Yeah, everybody always thinks the other side is the bad guy, but that's one of the differences, I think, between World War I and World War II, is that in World War II, it feels more black and white. You know, I mean, it feels much more like, okay, Nazi Germany, clearly the bad guys, and Italy, the same thing. So then those fighting against them, good guys. But even then, there are nuances, right? I mean, Stalin's definitely not a good guy by any stretch of the imagination. And then, of course, you have the soldiers. A lot of German soldiers were downright evil with some of the stuff that they did, but a lot of them were kids that were conscripted and that were just trying to survive, and we're fighting because of patriotism and not because of ideology and not because of wanting to subjugate an entire race and things like that. And so it's so complicated in every war, but especially in World War I.
Popped off in August 1914. There were a few countries that stayed neutral. But you guys, the Ottoman Empire, weren't as neutral as some people thought.
Oh, that was rough. Especially after that Belgium sneak attack from the Germans. Oh, yes, but they screwed up. Because they are now in a two-front war.
Against us, the most powerful gentle balls this side of the Atlantic.
Wait, gentle balls?
They're totally right! How are we gonna fight all three of them?
Don't worry. I've got a friend, and with him, we'll become a triple-layer lasagna of death.
There is somebody...
So, not Italy.
Lasagna.
Okay, I don't get it. This is the capital of the Ottoman Empire. That's correct. Isn't he neutral in the war? Technically, yes.
So the Ottomans by this point have been on the decline for centuries, really, from their heyday. And by the time you get into the 20th century, they're hanging on by a thread. They've lost some territory in the Balkans because they can't even take on some of those countries. They're certainly not in a position to be able to take on the likes of Russia. So even though they enter into the war, in some ways, and the same could probably be said of the Austro-Hungarians, in some ways, by having these allies, it kind of hamstrings Germany a little bit.
But also,
Plot twist!
Ottoman Empire and I have a
Secret alliance!
since when?
2 months, but I've been training him even longer. That's why he looks so buff.
My body is ready!
Are you sure his body is ready?
Yeah, his empire is kind of falling apart, but
Yeah.
Time for a comeback, baby! After this, no one will call me the sick mans of Europe anymore. You northerners love to call us that sick man, but your empire is declining too, you know. Yeah, you've got a point. I guess we're both sick mans right now. Germany's influence over our military was a lot. But we had motives too.
so, Ottoman baby, who do you want to attack first?
Russia has been a thorn in my side for too long.
Yeah, obviously, anytime you have two countries with different ideologies, different religions, different cultures, and share a long border, inevitably there would be conflict. And Russia had long kind of claimed the mantle of being the defenders of Eastern Orthodox Christianity, which generally was one of the main arguments they would use to go to war against the Ottomans.
But isn't he also a major trade partner?
Hey, if he wants to attack Russia, let him. It takes the pressure off of us.
Oh, shh. I mean, yes! Great idea!
And good friend that I am, I'll help you with your first attacks.
Yep.
I know there's a war going on, but it's good to relax sometimes. Besides, I'm totally safe here. Who could possibly attack me?
So,
Meanwhile, nearby in the Black
I
Sea.
don't want to attack Russia without cause. So, I say we float here until they attack us.
yes, great, I love it. But can I make just one teeny modification?
Oh, of course. Please.
Fire!
Let's collaborate.
Great, instead of raiding,
Let's bombard their ports! To battle stations!
This isn't really what I...
Oh, don't worry, buddy. We'll get you into this war real good.
Oh, this is the life. Wait, is that an Ottoman battleship? A German battleship? Oh, I'm confused.
Either way, it's firing on you.
Surprise attack, huh? Oh, not even declaration of war? This smells like Germany. Well, that surprise attack wasn't exactly what we wanted, but you had your reasons. We did. Just like we had our reasons for attacking you. And what were those? Damn it. Captain Kebab, sir. We'll get you back to base, Captain. What should we do with the Brit? He's our prisoner now. How much time until we get to your base? Enough time to finish the story. We're almost
course.
to the Sinai-Palestine front. The reason we're all here. Indeed, Germany needed you to distract his enemies, so you foolishly attacked us in Egypt, only because you had taken it from us. Egypt was our territory.
So, like so many wars before it, there are ancient grievances, and I don't mean ancient as in thousands of years. I mean grievances that go back to the last war, to territory that have been taken from one or the other. Just like how the Germans are going to try to do the same thing with Mexico when they realize that the Americans are likely to come in on the side of the Allies. They send the Zimmerman telegram and they contact Mexico and say, hey, wouldn't you like to get some of that territory back that you lost in the previous century in the southwest of the United States? We can help you get that. It's appealing to those old-time grievances and the previous conflicts that have been going on.
But this did mean we found ourselves fighting on multiple fronts. So, first, we take the Suez Canal from the Brits.
Then we take back Egypt from the UK.
For you, are you sure about this? Sometimes it feels like you're just using me.
What? No!
No.
And my plan is foolproof. They have no idea we're here.
If you say so. Be ready, gents. They can attack at any moment. Dude, they have a literal boat.
Okay, so maybe they're expecting us. No big deal. We'll crush them.
Yeah, screw it. Egypt belongs to me.
So remember, the British, especially early in the war, they don't have a large army. They've got a very small but very professional, well-trained army. Most of their standing army, though, is going to be pretty well wiped out on the Western Front in the early months of the war. And so they're going to rely very heavily then on these territorial forces, these call-ups, these volunteers, and the PALS battalions, folks like that. And so they're going to have to rely very heavily on their navy. And so Gallipoli, for example, or anywhere in the Middle East, relies very heavily on naval power. And there's mixed results with that.
First, we take the canal, then Egypt!
That's the spirit. Now charge! Okay, yeah, you were right. They were totally prepared for us. We're outgunned.
That boat is kind of a problem.
Yeah, we didn't think that through.
Keep at them, then. Let's show them that our empire is the best empire. You know, sometimes I feel like this is just about ego. You might be on to something. Less chatter, no victory!
So the point here, remember, anytime we're talking about the British forces, we're talking about their entire empire, later on Commonwealth, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Newfoundland, which was separate at that time, South Africa, India, many others.
Okay, new plan.
Anything is better than this.
We hold out for nightfall, and then retreat like ghosts.
I'm starting to feel like you don't really know what you're doing.
Hey, don't worry. We'll leave UK a little surprise. This way, we'll make them suffer if they ever try to follow our retreat.
I guess that's necessary. It looks like they've retreated overnight, sir.
Indeed.
We'll send 2 companies to clean up the stragglers and... snipers! Back to base! In the end, we retreated. The Brits kept the canal. Yes, and then we pushed into your territory, into Sinai and Palestine. The snipers didn't stop us. And here we are, fighting you from Baghdad to Gaza. What's your name, Brit?
Captain Meat Pie. And you're Kebab, right? Captain Kebab. Tell me,
Captain Meat Pie and
what was
Captain
it like in
Kebab.
your empire when Germany brought you into the war?
Many agreed, many didn't. The empire is vast and diverse. In the countryside, I remember many did not know why they were being conscripted. For what? Whose war is this?
That's often the case with war, isn't it? Especially a war of this nature, where it's all of these alliances and people whose country didn't necessarily have anything to do with the original cause, which is a spat between Austria-Hungary and Serbia. People are probably, I mean, they're not probably, they're rightfully asking the question, why does this have to concern me? Why are millions of people going to die over a Austria-Hungary and Serbia problem? That's how war goes sometimes.
Many didn't even know what the war was about. Captain Kebab, you're needed. I'm coming.
Until we meet again, Captain Kebab.
Until we meet again,
Captain Meat Pie.
And when it comes right down to it, the average soldier on either side probably found that he had a lot in common with the other guys. That's why you have things like the Christmas truces that break out in 1914 on the Western Front. Guys that really, I mean, there was no hate in their hearts toward the guy on the other trench. He was just fighting for his country the way you were. And even in World War II, you have a lot of guys saying those sorts of things about the enemy. That they weren't really the enemy. They were fighting a country, but they weren't fighting that guy.
Hey, MrSpherical here with a special personal message from the team. We've made an important decision to focus on making 3 to 4 new long videos per month. More content you guys want, and not just what the algorithm suggests. Yeah! Screw the algorithm! Freedom, baby!
Freedom! I like
That's a lot
it.
of videos. How you gonna pay for all that?
Patreon.
He's got the MrSpherical store.
Oh.
There's tons of cool stuff on there. You've got that
Nice.
right, Canada. The store is one way you guys can help us. But also, we're making a Patreon.
There it is.
Whoa!
Listen, I say it all the time. I talk about Patreon. Honestly, there are some channels who only exist because of Patreon. That's their primary means through which they fund what they do. So while I value every single one of you who watch these videos, and I never take that for granted, the folks who are part of Patreon are really what drives me to be able to keep doing this day after day. It's so important. So I absolutely appreciate it. So I'm going to become a patron of these guys because I absolutely love what they're doing. I think it's fantastic, and I think they need to keep on doing it. So with that in mind, I want to thank Grady in Virginia, Minnesota. Yes, Virginia, Minnesota. I know there's an Indiana and a California and Pennsylvania, so that makes sense. And Zachary in Petersburg, New York. Thank you both so much for your support on Patreon. Couldn't do it without you. I'm going to throw up some links to some other videos, including that series on the July crisis, if you want to check that out. Thanks for watching.